This is actually the second version of the piece. The first version was made in Latvia at a symposium of fiber artists in 2016. One of the things I found when I was Googling, what I should look for there, was that it did not fare well for the Jews in the Second World War at all. As a matter of fact, it was a gathering point for Jews to be brought from all countries all over Eastern Europe, and even from the West, even from Germany, to then be sent off in trains to the concentration camps. So I spent a couple of days in Riga when I first got there, and I went to the Holocaust Museum, and there were lists on billboards. There must have been 30 billboards with names, this big. So I walked around, I looked at the names, and this idea of what I was going to do was kind of gelling at that point. I was also told that it wasn't even so much during the Nazi time, but afterwards the Soviets took over, and they forbade the remaining Jews from publicly reciting the Kaddish, which is the mourner's prayer. This is a prayer that the immediate family say after someone in their family has died. If you're religious, you say it for the whole year. But it's a very important prayer. It's a prayer that's recited on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. And for the Soviets to bar any of the Jews that were left, and there weren't that many, to recite it, I thought, well, I have to do something of it. I have to incorporate that somehow. I began to draw the letters, the Hebrew letters, and I love to play with Hebrew letters. I used to do a lot of calligraphy in Hebrew letters, and I love the way you could stretch them and pull them and make them fit spaces where you might not have room normally. The best part was talking with the people at the museum of how they were going to mount it. So we figured out how to project light on the surface, and it was hanging from a pole from the ceiling, came down halfway to the floor, and they projected very strong light. And it was the first time that I had seen what I had imagined in my head, that indeed the whole prayer, it was a dark wall. It was an amazingly oddball color wall, the way museums, it was kind of like a gray-green, but quite dark. And the whole prayer was there on the wall in a kind of a ghostly manner. And it was even better than I would have hoped. So I did another one, and this one I did on the linen tablecloth that my grandmother had brought with her when she emigrated Eastern Europe. The fact that this piece uses my grandmother's tablecloth was just, it was kind of fortuitous that I had the piece of fabric. And when I was looking for something else to make, I thought, oh my God, of course. It presents itself and you have to use it. Old stuff, especially when it belongs to somebody that you knew, has memories embedded. The catch-all phrase is upcycling it. We're making it into something better than it even was before. We're not just shredding the fabric and making new fabric out of it. That excites me a lot. The idea of reuse, the idea of not throwing stuff away, not saying it's at the end of its life, at the end of its value, but to do something that's beautiful and that excites people and that, that makes them also be aware that these things can be made from stuff that throw away. That excites me. That's really what it's all about for me. So there's a lot besides the material. The fact that it was once a shirt, and it could have been worn. There's that part of its life. It could have been worn to the office. It could be worn, who knows, in a courtroom or by somebody who's also got hard working conditions and gets it full of sweat. And there's just a story to its creation. There's a story to the person who wore it, and then it becomes my story and what I decided to do with it and to keep it going, to keep it alive.